You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is September 11th, 2023, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty across the country and in your region. And today we have a special guest with us. He is the mayor of Lago Vista, Texas, and his name is Ed Tidwell, and we're going to talk to him about sort of his experience in politics and some of what's going on in Texas as well. But before we get to that, let me introduce you to the rest of our panel. In our upper left-hand corner, we have Leon, the word Brathwaite, last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California. In our upper right-hand corner, we have the mayor, Ed Tidwell. He is with us, and we're gonna talk to him in just a second. And my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host today. Mayor Tidwell, we've got you on the show, and I want to, James, maybe our invisible hand, you could bring up the visual here that we have. This is Mayor Ed Tidwell's webpage, and in case you don't know where Lago Vista, Texas is, it's just a little bit sort of northwest of Austin. Ed, do you want to tell us a little bit about sort of, I guess, how you discovered liberty and why you decided to run for mayor?
Yeah, okay. Well, good morning, everybody. Thanks for having me on. It's a wonderful day today, 9/11. I am going to start off by saying this is a very important day for me because my real job, I'm a paid firefighter, professional firefighter, and a retired Marine, spent 26 years in the Marines. So 9/11, 2001 has really impacted my life for the last 22 years. Today, thanks for having me. Today is a very special day in my life. As far as, being the mayor, I'm here. It shows I'm the mayor of a city. I just want everybody to know that I'm here as a person today, as just myself. I'm not here representing my city or my city council or my staff or anything else. So put that out there. I'm not representing anybody but myself. So mayor, I guess, I went into the Marine Corps at a young age, but then it wasn't until after 9/11 that I really started getting involved in the political world and stuff like that. And starting in 2010, as when I started running for office, believe it or not, the very first thing I ever did was run for governor of the state of Texas as a libertarian. Wow. It just so happened that the state chairman of the Libertarian Party was a city councilman here in Lago Vista, Mr. Pat Dixon, and he's the one that encouraged me to seek out the Libertarian Party, and that's where I got my start. And I didn't get elected until 2012 at the local level. Served city council for 5 years, and then I got elected mayor in 2017. And that is what's got me here now. I'm up for re-election this November, and I'm hopefully will win my fourth term.
Well, Ed, you mentioned, having been in the service and how 9/11 made a big impact on your life. And the first thing you did, I guess, when you got out, you decided to run for office. Was there something about being in the service or the events of 9/11 that sort of kind of woke you up to libertarian ideas, or did you always have those?
Well, honestly, I didn't know where I was always independent. I didn't know where I felt really. But after 9/11, I got sent to the Pentagon. I was called in to replace the Marines and seamen that were killed in the plane crash. So that was pretty weird, going there and replacing, doing their job. I spent 2 years there. Just the atmosphere in Washington, D.C., the sniper was going on. I came home after that. I came home in 2003, was home for a year, and then I went to Iraq. I was in Iraq, in Fallujah, Iraq, when Katrina hit the United States, and sitting over there and watching everything that was going on CNN. And I just really, 04, 05, between '01 and '05, I just really got involved in what was going on in the political world, and I just decided to get involved after that.
So how long were you on active duty, Ed?
I'm sorry?
How long were you on active duty?
I spent, well, see, I was in the reserves at the time, but I spent, 37 months deployed after 9/11, between that and '05.
Okay.
Well, yeah, just curious though. So, was there anything in particular that sort of, I guess, that you became focused on in politics? Was there some change you were looking to make? Was there something that was bothering you about the way things were being done?
No, I can't really. I can't say there's one specific thing. It was just a culmination of things.
So in terms
Yeah.
of your job as mayor of the city, you are a libertarian, and I mean there are all the libertarian ideals out there that many of us hope that elected officials will follow. How does those principles which guide you as, say, a human being, shall we say, how do those principles conflict with your job, in the sense that politics is the art of compromising? How much compromising do you have to do to get your job done?
So, yes, being the mayor of a small city, we're at 10,000 people now, so we're still small, but we're not too small, and we're right outside of Austin. Whole different world of politics there. I have come to realize how, I don't know that people don't value it, but how easy people are willing to give up their liberties. At the local level, everybody's paying taxes. I mean, this is where they have the most impact, right? The local level. So they're paying their taxes, they're paying their fees, and they feel like they're entitled to certain things. And they have no problem trying to get the city council, myself, to enact ordinances that take away the liberties of people across the board. And they will give up their liberties if they think they can control their neighbor. And it's become really, I don't know, it's really weird. I never thought this would be something that I would encounter as an elected official. So trying to, present what I feel are our constitutional rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, private property rights, things like that. And then deal with, people that want to control everything, from your grass to your paint to, everything. It's been really weird.
Well, we certainly know about that living in California, where it's like everything they're doing is to try and control. And Liam, before you get to that, your next thought, let me just show our viewers sort of a comparison of I guess how Texas is doing on liberty as far as Cato. We like to bring up our freedom map that Cato puts out, and they actually have Texas ranked 21 overall. Now, that sounds like there's room for improvement, but I mean, compared to California where we're at, we're dead near the bottom. So you guys are looking pretty good to us, and apparently to a lot of other people who seem to be fleeing the state as well. So essentially they kind of break it up, and they show that there's certain things like on fiscal liberty, you guys are pretty good, and say on some of the personal liberties, maybe not so much. Maybe that has something to do with people voting to take away some of the things you're talking about. But it looks like it's heavily Republican, and the senators are both Republican, and a lot of the state office holders are also Republican, and it seems like in the local house they have a sort of a a little bit of an advantage for the Republicans there. So that kind of gives you, our viewers, a flavor of sort of, I guess, what the politics is like in Texas. So go ahead, Leon, with the question you were going to ask on the political front.
Yeah, Ed, you're talking about people giving up their liberties, and I find that a very fascinating thing, which we see a lot of that here in California. So, I mean, based upon the history you have laid out, you were mayor during COVID, weren't you not?
During COVID, yes.
Okay. So how did your city, how did your mayor, how did your council, how did you guys respond to COVID in terms of liberties, in terms of the lockdown, in terms of all of those things? How did you guys respond?
So luckily, we're northwest of Austin, northwest Travis County. We have the Lake Travis, part of the Colorado River system, that separates us from pretty much everybody. And so we got ignored. And that was a big benefit for us in that when all the mandates came down, they came down from the state and the county level. The county level was the enforcer of all the mandates. Well, they would never come out to Lago Vista. So we would put up all the mandates on our businesses and stuff like that. I would leave it up to our local businesses to handle the situations as they felt best. I kept my golf course open. I had to make it walking only, but I kept my golf course open, and I tried to keep as much open as I could. And we actually thrived during COVID because people could actually come out here, enjoy the lake. They could play golf. They could get outside. And, other than going into our grocery store and stuff, we were able to kind of just ride it out and take care of ourselves. We didn't have a big problem out here.
That's a very remarkable story given what we have experienced here in California. So go ahead, Jason.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we obviously had cases of police officers chasing, joggers down beaches, going out to grab surfers who were out there. I'm not sure if they were worried that they were going to give COVID to dolphins or something. But yeah, it was obviously a different place, and of course, we're seeing some of the fallout from this, where it seems like a lot of people are heading to your state. Have you guys noticed a big influx of people to your area be it either Austin or sort of in the outlying areas like where you're at?
Yes. I will tell you right now, we are definitely in a downturn. I guess with the economy and everything has completely slowed down. But there for about 3 or 4 years, we were doing double-digit growth, and most people were coming from states that didn't have, I guess, the liberties that we do have, even though we're at number 21. So I had a lot of people coming from California and a lot of people from New York. I actually had probably more people from New York than I did California. With all the high tech, Tesla and Samsung and all those opening up new factories and stuff out here, we had a lot of people moving to the Austin area, and who wouldn't want to come out and live on the lake, so yes, quite a bit.
So liberty is good for growth.
Well, that and business recruiting by the state level,
Yeah.
Hey, Ed, at what point did you determine you were a libertarian? And why? What made you know that that's what you were?
I really didn't know until I decided to run in 2009. And I mentioned the Libertarian Party. They actually kind of came to me. Growing up in Texas, I followed along the red line that everybody else did. our Republicans have won every statewide election for 2-3 decades now. It's very one-sided here, and I was in that line. And it wasn't until I started actually campaigning and started going to party meetings and things like that, that I started really looking at where I fell in line politically. And that's when I really embraced the libertarian viewpoint.
Yeah. How did you know what that viewpoint was? Were you getting information from sites or things like that?
Well, yeah, it was a bunch of different sources. Because I didn't know, I had to research both or all three sides, Democrat, Republican, Libertarian. And so I just started reading and seeing basically where what was said, if you believe this is where you fell in. So I kind of followed that. And then I wanted, in my own personal mind, is this how I believe? And if so, then that's the direction I'm going. And it turned out that a lot of the libertarian ideals is where I fell in line with personally. And so I've embraced them ever since then.
Ed, we usually like to ask people this question because it's one of those things where when people grow up, and especially almost everybody having that common experience of the government-run schools, a lot of times all solutions are framed as, well, if you want a solution, you vote for it, and you have government enact it or something. Where it's sort of leaving things to the market is kind of a counterintuitive, I guess, thought for most people. And so, sort of like, how do they get those ideas, right? I mean, it's just always fascinating to hear, how different people have run into that.
Personal experiences, just talking to people, just hitting the ground and talking and working, researching. Eventually I developed my own perspective. And,
well, being sort of a pro-liberty mayor, what are some of the things you've done as mayor to try and sort of promote, more, liberty-oriented ideas out there, and maybe, get more people, I guess, excited about liberty?
Well, unfortunately, I don't get to promote a whole lot. I spend more of my time trying to defend. What private property rights are very big, because we're outside of Austin. We have developers always wanting to come in and do stuff. And the citizens, they live on their little slice of heaven out here on the lake, and they've got hill country views and stuff. So they don't want development. So I'm trying to, defend the private property rights of the developers, while also protecting, some of what they feel are their liberties as current citizens. That's a big one. And then beyond that, it's the small scale ordinances. Your house has to have so many square feet of rock, and it can only be certain colors, and you can't plant this, it's all, I'm always trying to defend stuff. I never really get to promote stuff.
But how do you if you can give me some idea, how do you resolve the obvious conflict between the citizens who are there and who enjoying some benefit from their own property versus somebody else's property who they want to enjoy whatever benefits which may be in conflict of the benefits that the citizens who are already there? How do you resolve that conflict? Because they are both people with property rights in your jurisdiction. How do you go about that?
Well, y'all did mention a big word earlier, and that was compromise. There's a whole process. Whenever somebody comes in and wants to do something or make changes, it's got to go through committee first. We have our committees: Building and Standards, Board of Adjustments, Planning and Zoning, They go through, they have public hearings, they review everything, and then they make a recommendation to council. And then we also have public hearings. We hear from both sides, and we try to make a compromise, to try and help everybody enjoy. We have our city slogan out here is "Live like you're on vacation." So, we try to adhere to that on both sides. So, if you're going to come in and try and develop something, you gotta meet that lifestyle, and you've got to protect the hill country views, and lake access, and things that, the people that are already here, their liberties, or they believe are their liberties. They don't own the sky, they don't own the lake, but they feel like they're entitled to it. So.
That brings up an interesting point that I was, I heard you touch on a few times about, how the life sort of centers around the lake, it sounds like. And a lot of times, as libertarians, we think about in sort of absolutes in terms of private property rights, but then there gets to be some of these common resources that are hard to break into private property rights, like the lake, I guess. And so I guess, that kind of creates that challenge, I guess, for a libertarian, as far as where maybe there's an acceptable role for government here, because we can't really break it into private property rights, type of thing. So sounds like you're living it.
Oh, it's even more complicated than that here, because when our city was created, all the little subdivisions that came together to incorporate, they maintained property owner association rights of all waterfront property. So the city actually has no waterfront property, and we have no public access to the lake in our city. So as our city has grown, I've got, 25-30% of my new community that has no access to parks because they were not in the original property owners association, and the older subdivisions won't allow new people to join their association. So I've got a whole set of people that can't even access the lake.
So it kind of restricts the I guess, who really has rights to the lake then, in that sense.
Yeah.
So the lake itself is public property, is it not?
Yes, they just have to go out into the county parks, or some of the other public areas outside of my city to get access. They can access it. They just can't do it through city property. It's
Oh, I see. Oh.
Yeah.
Well,
that's an interesting problem.
Yeah. Well, one of the things we always like to ask people too is, what are some of the challenges you faced in running for office? You decided to run for office. Were there financial challenges in running for office? And what kind of work did it take in order to achieve your goal of becoming a city councilman and then mayor?
Well, really, there wasn't really a financial thing. When I ran for governor, there was a huge financial thing. I mean, they're spending 75, 85 million for that, and I had a few $1,000s. But on the local level, it's not an issue. Typically, we sign a piece of paper that we don't even have to file financial reports if we vow to spend under $1,000. So financially, it's not an issue. Communication is the hardest thing. Everything falls under social media, but we're restricted by Open Meetings Act and public information on what we can do, especially as a sitting council member. I'm restricted on what I can put on social media. So your communication, your speaking out is what's very, very difficult. I do a lot of door knocking, a lot of walking. I walk hundreds of miles, September, October. Yeah. Communication. That's it.
Yeah. It sounds like you must be fairly popular there, because you've won re-election a few times now. So I guess is it that people value some of your liberty ideas, or are they aware that you're a libertarian?
Oh yes, yeah.
Okay.
Are there other libertarians on your council?
No, not right now. We've had two, Pat Dixon that I mentioned earlier, and then the Libertarian nominee for governor in the last two races was a former council member here in Lago Vista. So we actually do have a decent presence in my town, but I'm the only one on council at the moment.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And we're going to see. I actually have a meeting tonight that's put on by the Republican Party for the meet the candidates night tonight, and I'll get some feedback on their viewpoints tonight. We'll see. I actually have two opponents this time. So I don't know. Maybe my popularity is waning.
Your opponents are Republicans, one Republican, one Democrat, or what the opponents look like?
You know, I would say they're Republican just because of where we live. But you know, your local races are non-denominational. You know, you don't have to declare. So you're just a public servant at the local level. There's no parties, no nothing. So unless you tell somebody, you know, nobody knows. You know, I tell people. You know.
Well, you know, for us, the experience that we have as libertarians is we're in a very blue state. So, you know, we're kind of pushing in against some of the big central planning ideas that some of the people have out here. But what's it like being a libertarian in office in a place like Texas where it's mostly Republicans? Do you find yourself pushing back against some of their ideas a bit?
Yes. And it's a completely different atmosphere because we will pull votes from the Republican Party. So you will get a lot of Democrat support for libertarian candidates, you know, kind of, because they know it'll pull votes off of the Republican Party. And then the Republicans push back because they know you will pull some of their votes. So, it's a little different. But yeah, you definitely get some pushback from the Republican Party here because they don't want to lose. They've been in charge for decades, you know.
Well, you know, we're getting to almost the point in the show where we have to say goodbye to our public access audience. But if you are out there on public access watching us, this conversation is going to continue online. So go check us out and Spotify, YouTube, Facebook, or Rumble, Knuckleheads of Liberty, and you can find this conversation and many others that we've had with people who are out there pushing the boundaries of liberty, again, across the country and in your region. So we certainly encourage you to go check that out. Okay, well, if you're still with us and you're online, but I guess it's about that point in the show then where we want to jump into some of the topics that are kind of regional to Texas. And although it is 9/11, and so we did want to talk a little bit about sort of the impact that 9/11 has had on the country. And in that, I think kind of one of the special moments for libertarians is that there was sort of a viral moment in the 2008 Republican presidential debates where Rudolph Giuliani, yes, the Rudolph Giuliani, the one who is the advisor to President or former President Trump, and Ron Paul got into it on the debate stage about 9/11. And so let's see, I have there was a story about it here in Fox. Unfortunately, not good pictures, but we do have a video clip. So I might talk just a little bit during the clip because it's a couple minutes. So I don't want us to get flagged for copying somebody's stuff. But anyways, let's listen to this because I think it's really instructive about sort of the difference between I guess being a Republican and being a libertarian, because sometimes people have a hard time telling the difference.
Bigger than the Vatican. We're building 14 permanent bases. What would we say here if China was doing this in our country or in the Gulf of Mexico? We would be objecting. We need to look at what we do from the perspective of what would happen if somebody else did it to us.
Are you suggesting we invited the 9/11 attack, sir?
I'm suggesting that we listen to the people who attacked us and the reason they did it. And they are delighted that we're over there because Osama bin Laden has said, I am glad you're over on our sand because we can target you so much easier. They have already now, since that time, have killed 3,400 of our men, and I don't think it was necessary.
Wendell, may I make a comment on that? That's really an extraordinary statement. It's an extraordinary statement of someone who lived through the attack of September 11, that we invited the attack because we were attacking Iraq. I don't think I've ever heard that before, and I've heard some pretty absurd explanations for September 11. And I would ask the congressman to withdraw that comment and tell us that he didn't really mean that.
Congressman?
I believe very sincerely that the CIA is correct when they teach and talk about blowback. When we went into Iran in 1953 and installed the Shah, yes, there was blowback. The reaction to that was the taking of our hostages, and that persists. And if we ignore that at our own risk. That if we think that we can do what we want around the world and not incite hatred, then we have a problem. They don't come here to attack us because we're rich and we're free. They come and they attack us because we're over there. I mean, what would we think if we were if other foreign countries were doing that to us?
Can I have 30 seconds, please?
So I just thought that video was so instructive because that is for a lot of people what they claim brought them into being libertarians, hearing Ron Paul on that debate stage and going at it with Giuliani during that. So about us essentially having a military presence all over the world. And, you know, I was wondering, Ed, being in the military back then, what are your thoughts on that? Did that, you know, I mean, do you feel like we're in way over our heads in a lot of places?
Oh, I'm going to tell you, I definitely agree with Ron Paul there. As far as being over our head, wow, that I don't really know. I do think we are, I guess if you want to say over our heads, if we're spread too thin, then yes, I would agree. Trying to be the world power that America has tried to be for so long, and being so spread out into every continent, almost every country around the world. Yeah, we are definitely going to be facing blowback, and because whether we're intentionally doing it or not, we are affecting, you know, their governments and their countries. And yeah, I could see it, you know, talking to on the grounds when I was in Iraq, talking to some of the local tribes people and citizens there. You know, they were there, they were happy we were there to protect them in certain, you know, on the ground level. But as far as the political, you know, they didn't want America to be involved in anything in the Middle East at all. So
So
yeah.
Ed, the projection of the U.S. military might, do you believe on net that's a good thing or a bad thing?
I believe it's only good when it comes to defending our country. As far as projecting it, we have to. There's a thin line. You know, we are part of NATO. You know, we do have our allies that we have to protect. So as far as projecting our might in defense of our country and our allies and stuff like that, I have no problem with that. But if we try to project it where it's not wanted, I think we're crossing that line there.
Yeah, it does seem like you know, we're just all over the place. I mean, one of the things we've shown in some of our let's see, I was trying to pull up visual here real quick, but I was running into a little bit of an issue. But we have this map that we brought up before in some other shows, and maybe James, you could bring up the map again. This is Al Jazeera had this particular one on, but I'm sure there's a lot of different sites that have something similar. But it shows our military footprint all over the world, and it's almost like, where don't we have a military presence? It's kind of hard to discuss it in terms of I guess defense when we're all over the place. It sort of begs the question: is it have we really gone beyond the mission of defending our borders? But here they're talking about 750 bases in 80 countries and 173,000 troops deployed in 159 countries. And I got to tell you, I'm shocked to even find out that there are 159 countries. and yet we have people in all of them, it sounds like. But anyways, it's kind of breathtaking, the scope of how many people we have and the type of presence we have around the world. So,
there's no country where we are present right now is being forced to take our men, to take our military bases. Nobody's forcing anyone to take our bases. So I don't know why it would be a problem with our footprint. I really don't.
So Leon, thank you. I was going to kind of say that myself. If those 159 countries have invited us, they've asked us to come in and provide a military presence. That's another thing. If we're invited, then I'm okay with that. I don't see a problem with that myself either. But we just got to be real careful at crossing that line, whether we're actually wanted there or not. So.
Well, I mean, I totally agree with that, with your statement. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the U.S. I'm speaking about, haven't done some bad things around the world, but on net, we are in countries which have invited us in.
I beg to differ.
Go ahead. Well, differ, please.
Well, we're libertarians, so of course we're not all going to agree.
Please differ.
It's one thing if the government of a country invites another government much stronger and militarily powerful, like the United States, to do their defense for them for free of charge hold on. Subsidized by the taxpaying American public on jobs that particular government we're going to protect may have a vested interest for the government to become more powerful in that country and protecting them from outside influences and so on and so forth. For example, Ukraine and its rotten to the core government inviting the United States after it provided an American connection there, and to protect them and all the corruption and so on and so forth that goes within that whole arrangement since 2014. That I have an issue with. And so it's one thing for the citizens of a country to want the United States to protect them. Quite different for the government. It's like us here in California. Oh, the government of California wants to do X. Well, maybe the public of the citizens of California don't want X, or the citizens of the United States don't particularly want Y, or the citizens of some other country don't want a particular outcome as a result of American presence there. So we are, and this comes back to the whole thing that I feel is that the United States military is simply the strong arm of the United States government, and they are being abused unconstitutionally and have been all over the world for decades now, unconstitutionally. That's my position. So you may say, well, there's this benefit for this country that invited us and that benefit for the government, mainly the government of those countries. But it's quite another to say this is in the vested interest of the United States public under the constitutional law that they are supposed to follow.
Tim, there's a major flaw in your argument, and it's a self-contradiction that you're not really seeing, quite frankly. If you think about it, okay, look at what happened in the Philippines. In the Philippines, we had a very large military base. I think it was called Subic Bay, if I'm not mistaken. And at some point in time, the citizens acting through the government decided that was not in the best interest of the Philippines anymore, and the United States had to leave the Philippines. Okay, every country that we are in this world today, every single country, we are there because the elected officials of those countries, whether they're elected or whether they are dictator, whatever.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they're not all elected.
I'm sorry. I took that back. I took that back. I took that back. The government, the heads, the government in those countries are acting in the name of their citizens, even though their citizens may not have the kind of rights that we have here. But if they really wanted to change that, they could have a revolution. But the government is acting in the name of their citizens and inviting us in. I cannot see how that could be wrong.
Well, I guess just to play devil's advocate, Leon, what about like shaking hands with Saddam Hussein and handing him weapons to go kill Iranians and suppress his people? Is that necessarily in the name of the interest of the Iraqi people?
No, wait, Jason. I think I said at the very beginning, I am not saying that the United States government are a bunch of patron saints. They are not. They have done some bad things in the world. I will agree with that. But on net, the projection of our power is a good thing for the world. It has to be. Otherwise, people would not be inviting us in.
Yeah, and I can go both ways. For Tim's point, that's in my mind, that's where we've crossed that line. Sure, it's one thing to be invited in to a country for certain reasons, if we're there to help them, protect themselves or do something like that. But if we become their arm of aggression, then we've crossed that line.
True.
And then Jason, you brought up the Iraq-Iran conflict. We can look at Cuba. I mean, we got a base in Cuba. Do you think anybody in Cuba wants us there? We're not even invited into Cuba.
Yeah.
So again, there's that line that I mentioned.
Well, Ed, there's no doubt that you can pick. There are several places in the world where we could have acted better, we could have done things better, we could have done things differently, or we could have not acted at all. I mean, Iran involved in Mossadegh is a good example of that. Chile is a very good example of that, involving Allende. Cuba, you just raised. Sure, I would concede all of those points to you. But then you look at our overall profile worldwide, and all we see is on net countries inviting us in, and there must be a reason for that.
Yeah, I agree. I'm watching Vietnam. We just got some new agreement now. I don't even know all the details on that, but we just entered into some new thing with Vietnam. I mean, what are we going to be doing there?
Yeah. Well, again, it begs the question too. When we have $32 trillion in debt, how much can we afford to do there?
which is a very good point, Jason. Which is a very good point. These invitations that we accept, that's a very good point you're raising, which is different, but it's a good point. All these invitations that we take all over the world to go into these different places and all these kind of stuff and things like that, could we afford to do it? That's a legitimate question.
Well, ultimately, what causes a lot of empires to fall isn't so much that they necessarily lost right away on the battlefield. It's that they sort of decayed from within because they became financially corrupt. And I think certainly you could say when we have 32 trillion, and every citizen essentially break that down, and that's like several $100,000 per citizen, I believe, that we all owe to that debt. And now obviously nobody wants to talk about that, but that's scary stuff, because it's sort of like clown world numbers. I mean, I can't imagine that most people even perceive that they owe a couple $100,000.
Yeah.
So,
I think that an important question that Leon brought up has been answered, and Exhibit A is the $32 trillion debt. No, we cannot afford to go wherever we go, whatever we want, for whatever unconstitutional reason we can think of. Now, if you're going to go there and protect the looming invasion from some foreign country, of some country that you think the American public wants to keep, protect, like it's an American interest to protect some country, and you name it, wherever it might be, which 99% of the time has been demonstrably shown to be false. It's never in the American interest. It's just in the interest of the puppet dictators that the United States government put in place, in power in those places. So, I don't know where my hypocrisy occurred, where my, what was the word, Leon, that you used?
A self-contradictory flow.
So I'm not sure where the contradiction is, but maybe we can talk about it another time.
Yeah, let me introduce, or rather insert myself as the peacemaker, like the United States, in between you two, so that we can get on to the next topic. I wanted to get Ed's thoughts on a few of these, since they're sort of local to Texas. And so one of the things that we've seen over the last two administrations is a sort of a gyration of energy policy, and a lot of this sort of, I think, impacts Texas probably in a bigger way than a lot of other areas, just because Texas has a lot going on with oil and such. But James, maybe you could bring up some of the visuals here. One of the things that we saw right away is that when Biden came into office, is he killed the not the Nord Stream, but the what's the
XL pipeline? The XL pipeline.
Yeah, the one coming from Canada, and I think it was terminating in Texas, and so that was killed right away. And of course, he was making all kinds about ending all drilling. He's talked about restricting the Permian Basin, and it sounds like Governor Abbott in Texas is giving him a lot of resistance on that. Biden seems to be bouncing all around, actually, on a lot of his claims. He talked about no drilling. He was going to end all drilling. This is PolitiFact, on federal lands. And then, he's come in and he's sort of bounced back and forth like a tennis ball on some of these. I guess whoever he thinks that his audience is, he says different things to them. So I'm not quite sure, how all of it's playing out. But certainly he has caused there to be a lot of uncertainty. And he's also drained a lot of our strategic petroleum reserves, and he has, and in doing so, he's oddly, a lot of this is in the name of I guess, protecting the climate. And yet we've seen him going around essentially begging other countries like Venezuela and Saudi Arabia to pump more oil to relieve our shortages. So it's kind of a very incoherent policy that he has. And this is just something from the EIA, the Energy Information Administration. It just kind of shows some long-term trends for oil in Texas. And so you can kind of see that around the time of the whole lockdowns and with Biden coming in, things were kind of slowed down. But then it looks like there's been some increasing in recent years. So just curious, what's your sense of all this, Ed, being in Texas? What does the heavy hand of the federal administration feel like with respect to I guess, oil production there?
So, traditionally Texas has been extremely oil rich. Everything you look at our state universities, the University of Texas and Texas A&M University, the land grant colleges, the reason they're able to have so much money and so much funding is because of the oil and gas industry in Texas. And so a lot of the Texas economy, if not most of it, revolves around the oil and gas industry here. And so, our governor is trying to protect those rights and our state's rights, without trying to allow the federal government to dictate to the states what they can and can't do. I'm not going to say he's right in every situation, but because of our dependency on oil and gas, protecting that is very vital to the state of Texas.
You see, the problem is that these lunatics think everything has to be done in the name of climate change. So Joe Biden run around talking about, we're going to stop drilling on federal lands. And some of the most prolific basins, oil-producing fields, like the Permian Basin, or some of it that is on federal lands. And it does present a real problem for people, areas like Texas and some of the other. The San Juan Basin has similar problems to what that's mostly in New Mexico. But the point, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
But the point is, though, all of these things that Joe Biden is trying to do, and I guess the Democratic left, I should say, is trying to do, is being done in the name of climate change. And this climate change so-called science is not even settled. And they are making policies that are detrimental to the economy of the United States in general. Energy is what drives this economy. Energy drives every economy. And now they're talking about this wind and this solar business is gonna save us, is gonna take us to this energy utopia. Wind and solar cannot ever replace the energy density of natural gas or oil. It cannot. It's just engineering and physically impossible. And still these lunatics are going ahead in this direction. I don't know how far or what cliff we have to fall off before these people come to their senses.
So, and if I may touch on that, we're now facing that other side. We're clearing tens of thousands of acres for solar farms. So we're taking land out of production to do nothing but sit there and house these solar arrays. And we saw this past August with all of the heat and drought that we're going through here. When the sun wasn't shining and we weren't getting any heat, we were overtaxing our grid again. Yeah. Even with, we already had problems to start with. We saw during the winter storm of 21, but as we've been trying to expand our grid, the wind and solar are not keeping up. They just don't.
They can't. We have the same problem here in California, where they're telling us at times, you can't charge an electric vehicle. Well, thank God I don't have an electric vehicle, but you can't charge an electric vehicle because the grid is being a little bit overtaxed, because the wind and the solar that is supposed to replace the oil and natural gas produced energy, generated energy, it cannot do it. It can't do the job. But we have to go fall off a cliff before these people come to their realization. I mean, the thing is becoming so ridiculous that they were talking about shutting down all the nuclear power plants and everything here in California. But Diablo Canyon, which is one of our last nuclear power plants, the governor is now talking about, we got to save that one. You got to save that one. Because now they're starting to get a little bit of sense, just a little. Don't be confused by my statement here. It's just a little bit. they're just starting to see some of the ridiculousness about this wind and solar being attached to the grid. Is causing some major instabilities, and nobody on the left want to acknowledge it.
Yeah. Well, the bottom line is you got to have base load, something creating base load power. It can't be just intermittent. And this is the crazy thing when you look at what the left has done with their climate hysteria. And I'm not saying there's literally nothing to it, but the idea is if it was nearly as bad as they're saying, which is to say it's an existential threat, then well, hello, there's a solution called nuclear that's not an existential threat. So I'm not quite sure where the logic fails. That if one is an existential threat and one is not, then, I think you got to reach for that. And of course, they didn't even want to talk about it, which kind of shows you that the insincerity maybe of their position. So, yeah.
Well, Jason, not to cause a new debate here, which was not intended. But there is nothing to the climate change argument, okay? There is nothing. It is empty BS. The climate has been changing since the beginning of time. It go up, it go down, it warm and it cool, and that kind of stuff. In 1974, look on the cover of Time magazine, April 1974, you're going to see this big article about the coming of the cooling of the ice age. It's on the cover of Time magazine. Go look at it. And all these idiots want to tell us, well, it's really getting hot.
Yeah, this in case anyone's wondering, this is where Leon and I come together into agreement.
Yeah. Well, with all this fire breathing that's going on from Leon on this, I feel like you're going to drive me out of California to Texas, which is coincidentally one of the other topics we wanted to talk about is how many people, both domestically and in coming from other places in the world, seem to be coming through Texas. And we touched on this a little bit earlier in the show, but I wanted to bring up some of the numbers here. So, James, can you bring up a visual again? So this is an article that shows so it's from U.S. News and World Report, says fastest growing places in the U.S. in 2023-24. And of course, you see a few of these here are in Texas, and they show Kylene, Texas, which is actually not too far from where you're at. Is it, Ed? You guys are, is that just like a couple hours from
it's about 30, 45 minutes north of us. That is where it used to be Fort Hood. It's now been renamed Fort Cavazos, I guess is what it's called now. But that's where the Army base is in Kylene.
Yeah, and of course you can see Austin that you guys are really close to over there. It seems like you guys are kind of on the outskirts, and that also is one of the faster growing places. So certainly, there's also some other places here too. You can see some places in Florida and other places. It seems like everybody's trying to get out of California and New York. Hey, could it be climate change? I don't know. But anyways. Yeah, so it's certainly the numbers are kind of crazy, and this is actually something from the National Bureau of Economic Analysis, I think, and research rather, and they kind of show this is for the California and Florida. This is the one for California and Texas. And so it kind of shows the trends in population, and it shows that, Texas is growing pretty steadily, whereas California, although it had been growing like gangbusters, has definitely tapered off in the last decade. And so this is one of those things where, maybe we're seeing the philosophies play out. This is this one's based on population indices to try and correct for differences in some of the numbers. It ties it to 1958, and so you can see that California really trails off on that one. But anyways, yeah, this is definitely something where a lot of people are coming to Texas, and so is that creating challenges for you guys, Ed? So many people from places with license plates like California coming to your state?
Well, definitely, because of our natural resources. As far as the room in our job market, we've got plenty of room to companies are moving here. Like I mentioned Tesla and Samsung, and we've got Dell, and so we've got the jobs that people are seeking. I'm hoping with our universities and technology that we stay ahead of the job market, and we're a viable state as far as providing that. But when it comes to our natural resources, it's getting very taxing. Our water. Where I live here, I live on the lake that I live on, Lake Travis, is a flood control lake, and we're down almost 60 feet right now. So we're at about 40% capacity because of this drought.
Wow.
And who knows, hurricane could come through and fill it up. It only takes about 2 hurricanes to fill our lake up, but it's really starting to tax our water and our natural resources there, because we're used to fluctuate up and down a few 10, 20 feet. Now we're doing 40 and 50 feet at times, so, but California, y'all seen the droughts too. Y'all know what it does to your natural resources.
Yes. And Ed, with that, you guys are a border state, and you guys right there, the Rio Grande borders your state on the south. How also is the illegal migration? How is that affecting you guys down there?
Wow, that's hard to even speak on. The influx it's just overwhelming. I really can't even talk on that. It's causing so many problems with our school systems, with our being able to provide health care, medical care, education, just everything. It's amazing. I don't even know how to speak on that one. It's just overwhelming. And unless we get help, to spread it out throughout the United States, I don't know how we're going to maintain. I have a feeling it eventually is really going to hurt the state of Texas.
Yeah. It's funny because immigration is certainly one of those sort of tough ones for libertarians, because I think most of us would like to see people be able to move freely from place to place, as long as they're not drawing on involuntarily on the resources of somebody else. But on the other hand, we have this huge social safety net that sort of guarantees that that's kind of what's going to happen if somebody shows up here from another country. We see, people show up and Biden is handing them cell phones, hotel vouchers, plane tickets, and all kinds of things. It's kind of like it's like one of those Hollywood gift bags, I think, when people get here. Celebrities almost. It just sounds kind of crazy, but it's funny because we have this, I guess, this contrasting view of people like where you're at, Ed, where you're getting the problem right there in your face, and these people in a lot of these blue states, they think it's the greatest thing since sliced bread to have people coming over and drawing on those resources until it hits them, which is one of the crazy things. And so we actually have a video of Mayor Eric Adams talking about what it's doing to New York. And of course, he was absolutely fine with this until Mayor Abbott started busing migrants there. And they called it a sanctuary city. And they said, nobody shall want for lack of housing here. And, they, quite frankly, they insinuated that people in other states, such as Texas, must be racist to not want all these people here. Oh, yeah. And now here he is in his own words now about what it's doing to his city.
110,000 migrants. We have to feed, clothe, house, educate the children, wash their laundry sheets, give them everything they need, health care. And this team here We stated, let's do everything possible before we have to push it out into neighborhoods and communities. Month after month, I stood up and I said, this is going to come to a neighborhood near you. Well, we're here. We're here. We're getting no support on this national crisis, and we're receiving no support. And let me tell you something, New Yorkers. Never in my life have I had a problem that I did not see an ending to. I don't see an ending to this. I don't see an ending to this. This issue will destroy New York City. Destroy New York City. We're getting 10,000 migrants a month.
Yeah. So, there he says it in his own words. And of course, before it was like, and by the way, he still vilifies Mayor or rather Governor Abbott for sending busloads of migrants to New York, where they claimed that it was all prosperity and great and that, there was no downside to this. Just curious, Ed, when you hear this reality check now in New York, how does that make you feel there being a mayor in Texas?
Well, it does make you feel a little bit better. To use something Leon brought up earlier, there's that cliff. I think maybe we're starting to go over that cliff when it comes to immigration. Yes. And now some of the other states are realizing that they're not getting the help that they need from the federal government. And so as they experience it and they start asking for the federal help, maybe it'll come through. Welcome to our last couple of years. He's talking 110,000. We get that, every month?
Every month.
We've got millions that are coming through. And if we're only sending so many, I guess they're all still in the housing units down there. I don't know where all these millions of people are going. I personally have not been down there to see the operations at the border. So I really can't speak on what it looks like down there. But just when you think of the numbers, how many millions that we're having to deal with without getting a whole lot of federal support. So in my heart, I do believe there is a way that we could handle the situation better. But it's going to take a national effort, and until the politicians at that level can come together and work something out, we're going to be struggling for a while. And I don't know who's going to be that one to bring it together.
Ed, do you see, because I know you're not right on the border there, you're a little ways off the border. So do you see the problems of people essentially having to live in the streets and other places? Like in Chicago, they're literally filling up the airports and other places with and
New York too.
New York too. Yeah.
Yes.
I can't even believe that parents are just losing their minds there because they're literally housing a lot of these migrants in the schools that their kids are going to. And of course, they don't know anything about the history of these people. They could be, people who were carrying drugs for the cartels or something else. They have no idea who these people are that are being housed right there with their kids going to the schools. So it's just kind of crazy.
Yeah. So in my job as a firefighter, I'm on the streets, and 2 years ago, we were having huge homeless problems. For some reason, the homeless community from around the United States decided Austin was the place to come. We had open camping, and we were having huge problems with drugs and that portion of the community. Well, that has been replaced by the immigrants that have come in. Every street corner that now has people panhandling and stuff right now are all people from other countries. And I don't know where exactly they're staying, but they have replaced our homeless community on the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's shocking. And to me, this is sort of a wake-up call for the Libertarian Party in general, because, I know that there's been sort of a debate within the Libertarian Party. If you've had the Milton Friedman camp that's sort of like, well, you can't have open borders with a welfare state. But on the other hand, you have some in the Libertarian Party who are like, well, even with a welfare state, they say it's still a net benefit. Well, I think we're seeing that challenge when people are literally saying their cities are going to be destroyed.
Well, not people are saying the mayor of a city.
Yeah, the
is
mayor.
saying,
Yeah.
Yes.
So, so I guess we've pretty much kicked that topic about as much as we can. There is. I guess as we get to the end of our show, we do have a little bit of the perspective of Joe Biden to share with you as well. He was interviewed by the Weather Channel, of all people, about a month ago or so. And they were trying to get out of him, I guess, what are some of the I guess the justifications for people seeking asylum, because Joe has been very, just like with energy, he's fluctuated wildly from where Trump was. Trump wanted to put up a wall. Joe Biden essentially just wanted to take away all the barriers, pretty much. And so he was essentially asked, well, is extreme weather a reason to migrate? And here's his answer, among some other rambling.
Change knows no borders, right? Everyone's affected by this. Is it the responsibility of the U.S. to protect migrants who might be fleeing extreme weather in their countries?
Look, I think the United States should do everything it can to help people who are in desperate need and have no other means of help. And we've always done that. It is just who we are. We're the United States of America. And the idea to begrudge the ability to do it, for example, one of the things we're doing is we're providing for changing the environment, the physical structures in the countries which they come from. So they have better lighting, they have more secure, for example, you have so many lead pipes all across America and throughout the country. You have 440,000 schools, you turn on the water fountain and you may have lead in the water.
So that kind of an incoherent discussion with Joe, but he talked about how, hey, we're providing lighting for people in other countries, and climate change appears to be a reason for them to come here. And by the way, we have a lot of lead pipes in our country that need to be serviced. And so I don't know where he was going with that, but anyways, clearly he doesn't say. I mean, if you're going to say extreme weather is a reason to seek asylum here, is there any reason that can keep somebody from seeking asylum in the United States?
That's what open borders produce, right? Every possible reason you could think about, every lunatic idea you could think about, you will use to quote unquote migrate. I mean, I don't know who was the lunatic in that interview. If it was the reporter who raised the issue of migration because of extreme weather, or Joe Biden's rambling as a result of the question. This is unbelievable. These people are insane. Okay? Why this migration is destroying our country? Let's face it, it is. Eric Adams is saying it. And this is a man of the left who wants to believe in sanctuary cities. It is destroying our country. And when is these people going to realize that? Wake up and realize it. Either the so-called intelligent reporter asking this question about fleeing extreme weather, or our commander-in-chief who cannot even finish a sentence or thought. We are in real trouble here. Really, we are.
Yeah, there is just a ploy to dissuade people to come into the country because of all the lead pipes. Okay.
Maybe we're trying to scare them off.
That's it. That was it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we clearly know that there is no such thing as asylum anymore. That word it's been bastardized so much. There is no such thing as asylum. Nobody is seeking asylum. I don't want to say nobody, but no, they're just seeking a better life.
Yeah.
And I believe we can offer that. We just got to do it right. And right now, we're not doing anything, as far as it's my personal opinion. We're just reacting and dealing with what's thrown in front of us and trying to make the best of it. And we have no policies in place, to deal with it. And until the federal government decides to step up and kind of control the flow, not necessarily stop it or prevent it, but you got to control it first and get it to where you can deal with it. We're still going to have these problems, but I believe America can handle it if we would just do something besides just talk about it and blame each other and it's your fault and your policies are terrible and at some point we're going to go off that cliff and we're going to have to come together to fix it.
Well, hopefully at some point. Well, I was just going to say, hopefully at some point they'll just give liberty a try because, if they just say, hey, look, people can come, but you're not going to get anything. Even what do you call it? Larry Sharp talks about this in New York, who's also running for governor there too as a libertarian, and he says that essentially we should have these private placement organizations, I guess that a migrant would have to go to and make an arrangement with them, I guess, for finding work and other things like that. He's always got all these innovative ideas for how to get sort of work within government to get more towards liberty, I guess. But the way we currently have it is just kind of crazy. We have all these incentives for maybe people to come, but they're kind of perverse incentives, and then we wind up with maybe a bigger flow than we might otherwise have. Sorry, Leon, did you have any last thoughts?
Well, I was just going to say, I of course I am an immigrant myself, and I have no problem with immigration. I have none whatsoever. But I have a big problem with people who think they have some right just to walk across our borders. Seriously, I do. Okay? I do not think you can just violate the sovereignty of another country without consequences. And this is what is going on right now. This is going to destroy us, quite frankly. And Eric Adams is already saying that. And Eric Adams is a man of the left. Okay? So we really have a problem here. And we need some sort of orderly process by which people can come to this land. It took me 16 years to become an American citizen, okay, from the time I first landed here. Okay, and I'm not saying it should take everyone 16 years. Okay, I'm not saying that. But we should have some process by which people can legally migrate or legally enter this land. And if they wish to stay and live here, some orderly process by which they can do so. Not this damn nonsense that's going on at the southern border. No, thank you.
Well, do you have any final thoughts there on that, or?
Well, I've thought it out myself. Oh, sorry, Ed, go ahead. Yeah, Ed, the guest.
We've got topics that we can talk on forever, but just something that always pops up in my mind. I don't want to create any kind of social welfare program, but it seems like what happened to the Peace Corps or the Job Corps, something that could tackle this problem head on, whether it's through Homeland Security. I don't know where would go, but it seems like we could bring something in to tackle this problem head on and use private agencies to handle the placement and stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily have to be a government social program, but there's got to be somebody out there that's really focused on the immigration problem and tackling it head on.
Well, I guess we'll leave that issue there. And Ed, before we leave, did you have any final thoughts you wanted to share with the audience just about being a libertarian there in Texas and running for office, and any final words of wisdom for the audience?
Oh gosh, no. No, it's just you fight for what you believe in. That's. I see this on the local level, the social media stuff and the people beating each other up all the time for disagreeing. You know, you fight for what you believe in, and you know, I fight for liberty, and that's what I will always do, as long as I can. So.
Well, awesome, Ed. I'm so glad you were able to join us on the show and hear that you're going to keep on fighting there for liberty there in Texas. And I would like to thank the audience for joining us as well for another conversation with people out there fighting for liberty around the country and in your neighborhood. And you can find us on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Rumble. And until the next time, think about, you know, you've been listening to Ed's story. You've heard a lot of other stories on this channel about what people are doing. Think about what you can do in your community to also help fight for liberty, because I tell you, we need you now more than ever. So thanks for listening. Until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Yes, indeed.
Thank y'all.
Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.